He just stole a piece of bread and was sentenced to 19 years in prison. In these 19 years, he suffered a lot of humiliation and finally got out of prison. But the prison warden deliberately made it difficult for him to drag that 100-pound pole over. If he let someone else come, it would be an impossible task. But it just so happens that he was born with the power to lift the pole and throw it hard in front of the prison warden. Seeing that it was not difficult, the prison warden could only take out the release order. But what is unexpected is that this release order states that he is an extremely dangerous person. He needs to go to the police station regularly to report his actions. If he doesn't go once, he will be arrested again. Orang was so angry that he stole that piece of bread because his little nephew was about to starve to death, and he has already paid for this piece of bread for 19 years. Is this still not enough? But in the eyes of the prison warden, doing evil once in a lifetime is a thief. He must defend the justice in his heart and protect those who follow the law. Without a choice, Orang had to leave here with a gun. But even if he escaped from prison, he only entered another cage. He wandered around looking for a job, but no one was willing to hire a dangerous person. The adults humiliated him, and even the children laughed at him. At night, the hotel owner didn't even want to let him sleep in the stable. He was afraid that he would dirty his own place. In the cold, he had to come to a cemetery with a snowstorm. He just found a corner to sleep. Suddenly, an old man appeared in front of him. It turned out that this was not a cemetery, but a church. The kind priest took him into the house and prepared food, clothes, and a warm bed for him. But Orang was already suffering. He didn't believe anyone would be so selfish. He even doubted if this old man had ulterior motives. At night, he stole all the silverware and left in a hurry. But before he could run far, he was caught by the local police. Orang knew that he would not be able to escape from prison. But he never thought that the priest told the police that he voluntarily gave the silverware to a rang. He also took a pair of the most expensive candlesticks. He said that Orang was in a hurry and forgot to take these too. Without a choice, the police could only let Orang go. After they left, the priest said to him he hoped that Orang would make good use of these precious silverware and become a good and righteous person. Orang was shocked by this great kindness. It turned out that this world was not completely rotten. He didn't believe that he would turn into a thief. After the execution, he ran away like a stray dog. Did he really fall into the abyss and go home late? Because of a bite of bread, he lost nearly 20 years. But when he was extremely envious of this world, the priest touched his soul again and taught him what love was. In gratitude and self-blame, he tore back the release order that symbolized his identity as a thief. He wanted to completely let go of the past and start a new life. 8 years later, Orang had already changed his name to Magalan. With the silverware of that year, he became a member of the upper-class society. He not only opened a textile factory with hundreds of female workers, but also elected a mayor in this small town. On this day, the female workers were bullying a female worker named Fong Ting. Orang just wanted to mediate. He looked up and saw the police chief who had just been transferred. Coincidentally, this person was the former prison chief, Sha Wei. Orang was so afraid that he told the police to mediate between the female workers. He came to Sha Wei with courage. After more than 10 years, Sha Wei did not recognize that the boss in front of him was actually his fugitive. But for some reason, he also felt a little familiar. At this time, there was a scream outside. When the two went downstairs, a carriage fell over. There was also an old man under it. Orang took action again and lifted the carriage directly. When he saw this scene, Sha Wei was shocked. He had only seen one person with such power. He was suspicious for a moment, because the fugitive had not been caught until now. And this mayor is very likely him. That night, Sha Wei was patrolling. Suddenly, he saw a man and a woman tearing up on the street. He went up to ask, but the nobleman told him first. He said the woman suddenly attacked him. Looking at the wound on his face, Sha Wei thought the evidence was solid. When he was about to arrest the woman, Orang happened to pass by. He recognized at a glance that the woman was Fong Ting, his former employee. He went up to ask why he had fallen to death. Fong Ting looked at him with resentment and said, "All this is thanks to you." It turned out that when all the female workers bullied Han that day, Orang stood by and watched. He was driven out of the factory by the boss. But at this time his daughter was seriously ill and in need of life-saving money, so under the temptation of the boss, Arang finally became a prostitute, and the nobleman who was caught by Arang was actually forcing him to receive guests. Fong Ting caught him out of anger. After hearing Fong Ting's words, Arang, who looked weak in front of him, blamed himself. He immediately called Fong Ting and sent her to the hospital, and he promised to save his daughter's life. The next day, Sha Wei received a reply from the Paris police station. The letter told him that the fugitive Arang had been arrested. After the court trial, he would be shot. Sha Wei felt ashamed and apologized to Arang, because he felt that he had defiled the reputation of a righteous man. Arang told him not to mind it. He was just standing by. After Sha Wei left, Arang was in a dilemma. On the one hand, since someone had already executed him, this was his chance to turn his life around. But on the other hand, that innocent man, just because he looks like him, had to suffer for himself. But if Arang turned himself in, hundreds of female workers under him would lose their jobs. I'm afraid the end would be the same as Fong Ting. But if he is silent, he will be in hell for the rest of his life. When he was struggling, he saw the candlestick that the priest gave him. When he was in despair, the priest gave him hope. And now, he wants to give hope to that innocent man. He rushed to the court and told everyone that he was the real Rang Arang, the homeless man. In front of him was just a scapegoat. But no one believed that the mayor of Guangxin would be a dirty fugitive. Arang left a message that he would go to the hospital to find himself. By then, the truth would be revealed. Fong Ting was in a state of confusion in the hospital. But Sha Wei refused. He thought that Arang's kind of criminal must be hard to change. The so-called girl was made up by Arang in order to escape. Sha Wei couldn't believe it. Arang had no choice but to run away. He bought Cassette at a high price of 1,500 yuan. He promised the girl that from now on, no matter where he went, he would take her with him. But Arang knew that although the appearance of Cassette brought him hope and the meaning of his survival, their future was still uncertain. Before they left the city, Arang met Sha Wei, who was chasing him. They ran all the way and Sha Wei chased them all the way. In the end, the father and daughter were forced into a dead end by Sha Wei. Coincidentally, the other end of the wall was a church cemetery. The tomb guard was the one Arang saved from the carriage. In order to repay the favor of saving his life, he arranged for the father and daughter to live in the church from then on and start a new life. Looking at the sky full of dark clouds, Sha Wei was a little upset. Because he lost his hand again, the fugitive sank into the sea and could never be found again. He swore to the star that he would spend his whole life to catch Ran Arang. 9 years later, Cassette was already happy and inherited his mother's excellent genes. On this day, Arang took him to the street to help the poor but was found by the couple in the hotel. Because they had been cheating for many years, the couple in the hotel was so desperate to beg for their lives. The landlady recognized Arang at a glance. They were arguing and asked Arang to pay more ransom to them. In the quarrel, the police chief Sha Wei appeared again. He was about to curse but found that 2 people were missing. Turned out that Arang saw Sha Wei in the crowd and ran away, with Cassette in a hurry. Cassette was very dissatisfied after returning home. He didn't understand why his father always ran away with him. After wandering for so many years, he really wanted to have a safe home. He went out for a walk and met the revolutionary youth Melisse. They met in broad daylight. Melisse fell in love with Cassette at first sight. Cassette also fell in love with the revolutionary youth. This encounter gave the two a chance to make up, but Arang felt that Sha Wei had found himself. He was going to run away with his daughter overnight. He had no choice but to leave a letter to Cassette and ask Ipani to give it to Melisse. But Ipani also fell in love with Melisse and secretly hid the letter. Not long after, the Republican Party belonging to Melisse revolted. But these students were no match for the government army. After a few hours of fighting, they were trapped in a dead end. In the chaos, Ipani was killed before he died. He returned the letter to Melisse. When he saw the letter, he understood Cassette's feelings. He turned his revolutionary beliefs and his love for Cassette into words and sent them to Cassette's house. When he saw the letter, Arang was overwhelmed. He knew that he would lose his pearl on his palm. But on the other hand, he couldn't bear to see his daughter sad. So that night, he changed into a government uniform and sneaked around the defense line and came to Cassette's house. At this moment, the government army attacked. Arang acted quickly. and killed the enemy with one shot. In the crowd, he also found an acquaintance. Cassat was caught by Cassat for spying.
Aran.
Asked him to deal with Cassat. The students agreed. He took Cassat to the back alley and cut off his rope with a knife. Cassat.
Moquet d'Aran.
You are a thief all your life. You just want to buy yourself with my life. But Arang told him that there was no condition, it was neither a deal nor a love affair. He understood that Cassat was just doing his duty. He had never complained to Cassat. Cassat insisted on punishing evil with a heavy sentence. Arang believed that goodwill could solve all evil. After dawn, the government army started to attack